Hey everybody, this is Dani Hampton with The Real Dani Show. And you guys, I am so excited about today's episode. For one, if you are listening along to these episodes, you know that I'm all about being real and getting that real behind the scenes, the anti-fluff side of real estate and real life. And today I get to interview Marcella Oakley, who I believe is honestly a very unique, one of those people you want to know, right? But the whole episode is going to be talking about how negotiations and the language around it really plays into our everyday lives. So let me go ahead and have Marcella tell her story.
That's very sweet. I have been in real estate since 2013. Before that, I started off in law enforcement. I started as an officer in the city of Alexandria out here in the DMV area, and then I transitioned into being a detective, specifically an SVU detective, working with children, victims who are children. And so I was trained as a forensic interviewer first, and then I got into hostage negotiation. I was blessed and I was able to work under Derek Gaunt, and he's a very well-known negotiator here on the West Coast. And so I did hostage negotiation and worked as a detective. Then I transitioned after 14 years in law enforcement to real estate. My larger family is in real estate. I went out on my own. Well, I started on a team, then I went out on my own, and now I have a little tiny team here. I then started working jointly with Black Swan Group as a coach and trainer for the Black Swan Group under Chris Voss, and also Derek Gaunt was working with them. And then now I'm working on my own and teaching realtors how to influence and negotiate and build trust through hostage negotiation techniques, and also how to use it in their personal lives too. Because I feel like our lives as realtors, there's a lot of blending, right?
Yeah, it's almost like I'm wondering if you find it odd to even just share the word like hostage, right? You're like, you don't want to think that our everyday lives we're having to do hostage negotiations, but how that actually blends into real estate. I would love to hear a little bit more of the way you kind of saw how it connected as you got your real estate license, as you started working clients and transactions, and how you really were like, oh, I'm seeing how I can connect the dots here.
As a detective and a hostage negotiator, it was important to build trust quickly, and it wasn't easy to do. You show up, you're usually on the phone, or as a detective, I'd show up in an interview, and I'm the last person people want to talk to. And so there are techniques, and hostage negotiation teams nationally have used these techniques to really understand the human being behind the crisis first before trying to solve the problem. And so I realized very quickly in real estate is about building relationships and guiding people. In some ways, it's actually harder than being a hostage negotiator, because when you show up as a hostage negotiator, you're like, okay, I know this is a tough situation. It's obvious that this is a tough situation. But as a realtor, sometimes we walk into situations that we think are going to be normal. We think we're going to have just a normal day, and we're doing the normal things that we do when we're working our transactions, and we're hit in the face with like a crisis that we didn't know was going to be a crisis, and people who are really having a hard time with X, Y, and Z. And I realized very quickly that the skills that I learned as a detective and hostage negotiator absolutely translate, because you're dealing with people in crisis, whether it's a high risk life or death crisis, or it's your home and you raise your kids here, and now you don't know what you're going to do because you have to move into this other home and you're not finding the other home, and you feel like you're going to fall apart. Numbers aren't what move people, it's fear. People are moved by fear of loss, and we're not trained in real estate to identify and slow things down and realize that loss and talk about that loss and being comfortable with that loss and articulating that we understand the other side outside of the drive that we might have on our own to do a good job as an agent.
Right. You're right. And I honestly, right. We talk about the things that maybe we didn't get to learn in real estate school, and a lot of people understanding that there is so much that we need to put towards that trust building, because you can't truly help someone get to the other side or solve that problem if you don't have that trust. Because I remember even when I was just starting to work buyers, and I realized that they were never going to tell me their true budget. It was like they didn't trust me to know, like, well, I know you're in sales. You're going to want to try to most likely push my price limit up. So I'm going to take myself down and not give you everything. And when I started realizing that they didn't trust me, then it was like, okay, what do I need to change about myself? And so, yeah, that's super interesting to hear how that translates from hostage negotiation. And you even saying the words like, maybe that was easier. Like maybe that was easier because you knew what you were working with versus everyone in when they're moving, when they're buyers or sellers, they're not showing you all their cards.
And you have to ask yourself, I mean, even when you want to, let's say, work with a new client, before we even get to talking about the deal or the possibility of a deal or even the possibility of what they might be looking for as a new buyer, but you have to ask yourself, what do I look like to them as a realtor? What do realtors look like to them? Are there reasons that they might not trust me or my motives? Because anytime we're in a situation where we want something, we have to remember we're in a negotiation and we're negotiating with people from the day that we meet them. That includes other agents. So when we pick up the phone to make an offer, I know some agents don't pick up the phone because we're afraid of that phone. That phone, you should be very comfortable with having conversations with the other side because we are lacking human connection in our industry. And there's a huge fallout because of this, because it's hard to work in an industry where we take on the problems of our clients and we take on the decisions of our clients. And we're told, unfortunately, that we should just show up with our value and our strategy and prove that we're the best. When in reality, people want to work with people that they trust and that they know that can guide them and that they know are authentic. And this is a better way to do it. So I'm excited to talk about it. It's a passion of mine. I use it in my personal life as well.
I love that. We're going to dive into that because I think anyone who's listening to today's episode, don't be so fixated on just trying to grab something from this conversation to apply to your real estate business if you are in real estate, or if you're not in real estate, kind of even understanding how this conversation really can play into your everyday life. So I know that's going to be the part that I'm going to be really interested in. So I'm going to save that for the end. But I would love to kind of understand, especially like as you're now you've grown your own real estate business, your real estate career, established yourself as a realtor, but now you're also, again, tying in that coaching background that you did into coaching real estate agents to use the skill sets, because obviously not many of us walked into law enforcement. So how to take those same skills you learned and coached there and apply them into our businesses to make us better real estate agents. And I actually do want to emphasize it's not just the conversations that we're having or not having with our clients, but the other conversations that we're not having or having with the other side when it comes to the buyer's agent or that seller's agent on the other side. Becoming a better communicator truly really is going to make everything in your life so
Absolutely.
much easier.
That's a wonderful point because when you're listening, we want to be listening to the point where we can articulate. It's not just listening, it's being able to articulate that we understand the other side. And so even with that listing agent that's on the phone, they're under pressure. And so identifying that pressure so that you show them that you understand that they're under pressure is the first step in connecting and building trust. This type of listening and this type of these skills that we use as hostage negotiators and now in real estate, which I'm happy to say, they're reciprocal. So when you treat someone this way and when you engage with someone this way, they typically will engage back and allow you to articulate, and they will be more open and receptive to listening to you.
Okay. So where are we failing as agents in this moment, like in the industry? Where do you think we're failing to, we're not even getting to that point with each other. And maybe we're actually breaking some deals because of the fact that we're not getting to that.
It starts with us, quite frankly. So I want you to put yourself, I mean, I love that you're an agent. I love talking to another agent because you understand the industry so well. Think about all the pressures that we're under as agents. A lot of times our deals are tied to paying the mortgage, making sure the kids go to college. If you look at the stats, a lot of agents nationally are doing less than 5 deals a year, quite frankly. And so there's a lot of stress there, and nobody talks to them or teaches them how to really engage with the other side outside of a script, which is if this person says this, then I'm going to say that, which is really listening to respond with an answer and not listening for deeper meaning. So the first step is start with yourself. Put yourself in a space where you are saying to yourself, I'm a negotiator. I'm going to negotiate this. I realize that there are reasons why I might not be listening at the top level or at the best level. And I need to get myself in a space where I can listen better. I'd rather see agents wait on difficult conversations, even if it's, hey, would you mind if we have this conversation? I don't really know the answer to that. Would you be against me calling you back in 2 hours so that we can have a conversation where I'm totally focused on you and what your needs are? Instead, a lot of times we have this knee-jerk reaction to fix, because that's what we're trained to do. We're triagers. We go from ABC, A to Z, and we're doing it usually with, several clients and contractors. And then in the background, we've got our own kids, our own families, showing houses late into the day, often on the weekends. During the busy season, we don't have time off. And our mindset, our space isn't the clearest. And so it really starts with you and really understanding where you are first before you have that difficult conversation. I also want to see agents practice these skills so that you're used to them before you need them.
Yeah, that is huge, because I think that's the problem. I've coached and helped many agents over these years, and I feel like every time I said the word role play, oh my goodness, it was like, you could see their shoulders go up. They started to cringe a little bit. So just to even think about that word role play, but it's like what I always said, and I know many say this, is why would you want to role play on the actual situation itself versus go in with a little bit of confidence? Because I think confidence is key. So I would love to, we talked about that on our phone call before about
well, you're going to go in and you're going to do what you train, right? So we're only as good as we train. And so what's nice is that we're having conversations all the time, so we can train using these skills at the grocery store and in the middle of a conversation at dinner, whatever it might be. Train often, but yeah, role playing is a wonderful way to train. It's also very uncomfortable. Learning is uncomfortable. So getting comfortable with not being comfortable is half the battle. I find that a lot of people, when it comes to using, like, being silent in conversations, allowing the other side to speak, they're uncomfortable with that, and they don't give themselves enough practice just sitting in the silence without having to give an answer or correct or fight for a solution. So yeah, totally agree. I think role playing is a wonderful way to get your reps in and practice.
Well, and so I will be completely honest with everybody who's listening to this today, is that I tend to be a space filler. So I tend to, if I hear someone on the other side who honestly is just sitting back and they're not responding, or they're not responding how I pictured for them to respond, or they, again, hold back and they're basically holding their tongue. And which only reminds me of my husband, because he's a little bit more of an internal processor and I'm a verbal processor. So in those types of situations, if I'm not going in prepared, I tend to start spitting everything out and filling that space. So what is that advice that you usually give to an agent who might be?
So it's great that you already know who you are. Instead, I want you to get super curious and watch. Your husband is a good example. If he is, it sounds like he likes to analyze and think through things before he gives an answer. My son is very similar to that. When you press someone and fill their space who needs time to think, we come off, remember, it's all about removing ourselves as a threat to the other side. And so we will come off as pushy when we're even, especially if we're in our head, we're thinking, I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to give him a solution. I want to talk him, let him know that I understand where he's coming from, whatever it might be. Yet he's thinking, the other side, the client, my son, is thinking, well, just be quiet. You're pushing me. I just need space. And so instead, I want you to get curious with your eyes and watch. And your intuition, I love these skills, because particularly when I'm talking to women, men are wonderful at negotiating. Women are wonderful as well. And we don't really speak to how women are more comfortable with their intuition and acknowledging their intuition. And so I want you to just let your gut speak to you and watch what he's doing and how he's interacting. And he's saying things to you without using the words. And letting him have that space and just sitting in the moment with him will allow him to give you a better, more robust answer, which is better information for you to process in response.
Did you guys just hear that she gave me marriage advice? Like, that was marriage advice that just happened right now. But it honestly has been, for someone who I'm about to have my 17th wedding anniversary. So it's amazing to even just say that many years with someone and you're like, I'm just now getting it. Like I'm just now understanding how to communicate with the other person. And so this communication skill, again, we're emphasizing it just because we're both real estate agents. We're both having to do negotiations on the daily, but we are usually using negotiations in our everyday life because obviously life is a little bit of a compromise, right? Someone has to compromise somewhere. Someone's needs need to be met. And so what I find is interesting, what's helped me recently has been when I'm in, especially just let's say the real estate negotiation, is that I tell everybody this probably looks so silly, but because we don't see the other person's face, right? So that's probably the biggest challenge in the moment of like, especially doing any kind of negotiations over a phone call, is that I don't see their face. So I don't know what I'm reacting to. So again, when you're sitting in silence, that's a little strange when you're on the phone. And so I do this sometimes where I'll make sure I get my point across and then I'll literally cover my mouth and like kind of shut myself up. So that way I am giving space for someone to, dissect or analyze or listen, or even maybe giving permission. And again, this is me taking my own, pieces of what I've learned over the years of giving permission to say, I don't need an answer right now. Is that something that you actually advise on or coach?
If your drive is in the back of your head and you need a solution, are pushing them towards something, what you're not doing is you're not listening. You're not really listening. And so what I want you to instead do is get so curious about what their world looks like to them, but also why are they thinking this? What does it make them feel? How does this make them feel? That's a huge part of this. So if you're hearing silence on the other side and it's awkward, acknowledge it. This is probably making you feel really uncomfortable, or you're probably really disappointed in this. And then be quiet again. Let that label land and let it sit. Because you're acknowledging where they are. You're slowing things down and you're acknowledging there's an undercurrent to real estate and it's emotional. That's what's driving our clients. And we have to sit there with them first. We cannot get them to think logically if they are in crisis. And so this is hostage negotiation 101. If logic and reason isn't matching the way that they are acting, they're likely in crisis and emotion is driving them. And so let's start there. And remember, fear is the number one driver. Fear is driving them. What are they afraid of? Losing face? Missing out? I mean, it could be 1,000 things because real estate is so dynamic and different.
Right. So I know a lot of us tend to get in trouble, especially, you hear the term commission breath, right? You can tell that even though at the end of the day, you can say logically, if I took myself out of this situation, this deal should not happen, right? This is not the best situation for either client. This is not a win-win. But when you have an agent on the other side where you're starting to get the sense of desperation, right? You're getting that sense of that they need this deal more than maybe their client needs that deal. What kind of advice do you end up coaching on for like an agent on the other side when they know the other person is very emotional and maybe they're not even, you might be listening, right? But you're trying to let them know that you're listening, but they're so stuck in their heads.
Start with what they're thinking. So let's slow this down a little bit. When you hear an agent that's stuck in their head, what do you think they're feeling?
I absolutely think they're feeling fear. What are they afraid of? They're probably afraid of losing the deal.
You're probably terrified that this deal is going to go down the tube. This has got to be extremely stressful for you. And do you see the tone that I'm giving it to them in? So our tone, the way that we say something matters more than the words that we say. So when we deliver bad news, or when we're giving clients information that's kind of critical and we need to slow your tone down. Because I like to talk like this. I come from a big family. I talk fast. I'll interrupt naturally. That's who I am. When I'm negotiating, my primary role, and that's what helps me be a better negotiator, because I'm not typical. At home, if I'm not thinking about it, I'm a terrible negotiator. I have to really put myself in a space to do this. And so I slow myself down. You're probably terrified that this deal is not going through. Or I would probably label the pressure that she's under, because the pressure, or he is under, there's a lot of pressure that, comes with being on the other side of a deal and having to deliver the bad news to their clients that the deal's not going to come through after all the work that they did. Because a lot of times it's not just the contract that you wrote, it's the days and days and days of showing houses, and then the home inspection, and then, you know, this thing comes out of left field and now you're dealing with it. And you feel, a lot of times the agent feels and takes on those pressures when you just, it's just releasing the lid a little bit and starting there. And because really we work with our colleagues all the time, and often we work with the same colleagues. So we want to nurture those relationships, especially when you're on the other side of that deal, when your deal is going bad and you're the one that's going to have to walk away. Do it with grace, because you never know when you're going to see that person again. It's really important to do it, even if the other side isn't working so gracefully, because we've seen that before, haven't we?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the other thing too, where again, I don't want to be quick to assume that, you know, again, someone could be having a bad day. There might be something that they'll never tell us that is happening in their lives. And of course, again, we're having to wear this shield of armor, and we're taking every hit that comes our way. We're like kind of the front men. And so I know that a lot of agents, or again, just even like adults, just getting into this adult world and communication, where I actually think that maybe 2026, we're struggling a little bit with communication, because you already mentioned it on the podcast, is that what happens if no one answers the phone? Like, what if communication is only in text message or email form? Is there a different type of training that goes into that, as far as like just being able to, like you said, your tone? Well, I can't put a tone in
No, you
text or
can't.
email.
You can use the skills. They're not as helpful. I always use an email or a text message to get me into a phone call or a face-to-face if I can. Would you be against a 7-minute phone call with me? Is it a terrible time to do something like this? You know, to have a phone call or a conversation. I usually do that. It tells me something if someone is hiding behind a text message or an email and refuses to get on the phone. They're afraid of something as well. What do you think they're afraid of? That's where my head goes at. You know, what are they protecting? Clearly they're protecting something. And then I'll label it. It's funny because, and you're right, in 2026, we're, especially in sales, AI is a wonderful tool. I love AI. I'm a big AI geek, and I'm trying to learn as fast as possible. It's also giving us this false sense of connection, and we're losing the human side of connection, and the reality that when we're in trouble, or when we're talking about something extremely important to us, we need that human side. We crave that human side, and we crave being listened to. And so the one thing that we can do as agents, because we're negotiating and talking to people all the time, is become better listeners, because people crave being listened to, and they will make better decisions when they're in a better state of mind.
Right. Right. Okay. So, right. And that's the other thing, is just using that text, to getting that email out, trying to encourage the phone call, because so much more can happen when you put voice to voice there, when you're actually able to meet the emotion or meet that person on the other side. And instead of, like you said, that perhaps they're hiding behind it. So, all right, let's talk about this like everyday life. You already started giving me a little bit of marriage
Right?
advice, right? Which is great, because I'm sure my husband will appreciate it, because of course that I am trying to be a better listener. I love that you even mentioned that you come from a big family and naturally talk fast and interrupt. And I also grew up in a loud family that also likes to interrupt. And so I think that I don't see it as a bad thing. Of course, I'm used to it. I'm comfortable with it. However, when it comes to my profession, or honestly, it comes to my marriage, right? My everyday life, I mean, I'm sure my friends don't want me to interrupt them. My husband doesn't want me to interrupt him. And there is times where someone really wants to know that they're being listened to. So how has these skills played into your everyday life?
It's played into my personal life, because when I need to negotiate the personal situation, and it's very important to me, I have practiced this enough where I will fall into this, knowing that my knee-jerk reaction isn't very good, because I can come off as, when we interrupt people, when we speak fast, we can come off as pushy or not caring, and only caring about what we have to say. I'll use an example. One of my my daughter was in the hospital a while ago, not that long ago, and she's doing great. She's fine. There's a skill called the summary, which is summarizing the other person, summarizing points that they're making and how it makes them feel, right? And not including your own wants or needs in that summary. So it's not about my summary in my world, it's about their summary. And I don't have to agree with their summary, because this is cognitive empathy, which means I can empathize with them and not feel what they're feeling or agree with what they're saying, right? So we were doing rounds at the hospital. And of course, me being who I am, I would love to get in there and get all the answers and ask all the questions. But what I don't want to do is come across as a pushy or emotional mom. And so during rounds, what I would do is I'd sit there and summarize everything that they'd said. And, so far you've told me, and because of that, you feel that this is the best way to go on, or you're really comfortable, or you're uncomfortable with this position. And they would usually clarify to my summary. They would give me more information by clarifying their points, or countering what I said and correcting me, essentially. So my point is that when you use these skills, you'll find that when you need them the most in your personal lives, you're grateful that you have them. For me, I was very grateful that I had it, because what it allowed me to do was navigate a hospital situation as a negotiator without being emotional. And really what mattered to me at that point was just being the best kind of mom for my daughter, which meant being productive as opposed to what I could have been, which is all over the place and emotional and pushy and talking through everything. I'm terrible when I'm not trying. I'm terrible, and I know that about myself, and that's the first step for me. It's just my mindset is being so curious about how I present myself. What do I look like to the other side? How can I remove myself as a threat to the other side? And that's the first step.
Yes, that's it, right? Removing the threat to the other side, because again, it's like we can get obviously so much further together and getting to whatever the solution is in that moment. And just to give you just 1 second of understanding that I do understand a little bit about how you feel. I was a NICU mom and I had a daughter with a heart condition, and that was new in my world. And we were not prepared for that. We did not understand anything to do with the heart situation and understanding what was our options and everything like that. But when you're in that type of environment, and of course they are trained, they have these jobs, like this is what they clock in and clock out every single day to do. And this is my first time ever being a mom to a child that is having to be hospitalized. And so, yeah, I absolutely can see how our emotions can wreck us. Like we can, and we're not helping our family or our just ourselves in that moment when we're just letting our emotions take the.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that. That must have been devastating.
Thank you.
Yeah, that must have been devastating. It's a terrible thing. I hope she's, or he, either one, is doing okay.
Yes. Yes, she's great. I think what actually, if I could want something, I would love to kind of pull this all together and just understanding, like, again, just taking away a piece, because again, I never imagined these things tying to each other in our negotiations. I honestly, before I even had my first phone call with you, I think I did say those words, that I'm a terrible negotiator. And I wouldn't necessarily present myself like that as a real estate agent, obviously, as my clients are hiring me, because in the moments I'm like, I know that I can improve my negotiation skills. I have worked on my negotiation skills enough that it hasn't necessarily hurt any of my clients or any of the situations. However, I know in those moments, we could have probably gotten there a little smoother. Like, I think there's a lot of phone calls and things that happen in our transactions that we're just like, that could have gone differently. I mean, even as we were just talking about the everyday life thing, right? The getting kids up and ready and off to school in the morning is one of those things where you're like, yep, this morning could have gone a little differently. So being able to separate yourself from the emotion, it seems probably one of the biggest things in knowing yourself, your mindset.
Your team. And it doesn't have to be a traditional real estate team. I'll just take it to personal life. We have a team of people around us that care about us and that want us to be productive in these difficult conversations. And so for me, it's just going to my colleague and saying, I have to have this really tough conversation, and this morning was really tough, and I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z, and this is how I feel about that. And let me just unload my bucket, and then don't add to it. It's not yeah, you should go in there and this person's terrible and, go do whatever. It's about, okay, this is probably how it's making you feel. You probably feel overwhelmed. Let me unload my bucket and then help me be a better negotiator, so that when I go into that conversation, you have to remember, hostage negotiators, it seems like we work alone, because like that's how Hollywood tries to profile us, is we're just on that phone by ourselves and nobody else is around us. The reality is we have a huge team behind us. So don't go in alone. Don't go into these difficult conversations alone. Slow yourself down and allow your team to make you better, because every day you can get better. And that's how we have to start, is every day we just have to try to get better. And if we're all going to make mistakes, just try not to make the same mistakes again. Just keep getting better.
Yeah. Awesome. So what do you feel like right now that your coaching agents, like, what do you think they're struggling with the most, or what's the conversation you're having the most with them? Is it really around this like mindset and just removing yourself as a threat, or is there another piece to this?
So there are active listening skills that hostage negotiators are trained to use. And so I train people how to use those active listening skills. For example, labels. We've talked a lot about labels without us acknowledging that that's what it was. You sound, that's got to be tough, or that's got to be devastating. That's a label. And so using these techniques to help show the other side that you see them, and you can paint the picture of what their world looks like to them, using these different skills is a start to how we can listen better to the other side, which is nice because it's hard to do it when you don't have techniques to fall on.
Right. So everyone practice on your spouses and your children, and being able to, yes, call out the things that, if a little boy pushed my daughter off the playground and I'm like, oh, that must have hurt. Did that, that kind of active listening skill, and being able to know that this is something that can play into our everyday life and business, is that just becoming better listeners is going to help us naturally become better negotiators. And when we even hear the word negotiation, I don't know why I'm always just thinking about just getting a sale done, but the word negotiation of just essentially coming to a point together, right? Getting to
trust,
a solution,
right? So if I meet
building
someone
trust
at an event and they're a potential client, they've signaled somehow that they're a potential client, someone's introduced me to them and they've said, oh, I want to buy a house in the next 6 months. Would love to have a relationship with it. I would love to be that agent in the next 6 months. So you're starting a negotiation right there. That's what a lot of agents don't realize, is that the moment that you are engaging with somebody and you're wanting something, you're in a negotiation. So slow down and use these techniques and use listening to build trust, because that's a faster way. It doesn't seem faster initially, but you're actually slowing things down to speed it up later.
I see. So honestly, this is the lesson I'm having to take for myself just today. I'm a go, go, go. Next thing, next thing. I love to plan my day and really get myself booked up and get, not giving me myself the space in between things, even to know how to decompress, right? Where I don't want to bring my morning into my afternoon if I need to be, light and bright and, fully on for whatever I signed up to be when I had a really heavy morning. So it seems like, yeah, I need to truly learn how to take a step back and really like see big picture and analyze from not my own feelings or my own selfish wants or needs, but truly figuring out the other side and
Yeah, it
acting
gives us
with
better
curiosity.
perspective. Because like you said in the beginning, our clients are afraid to tell us information. It's not because they're intentionally trying to manipulate us. It's just because they're afraid. And so if we allow the space to get the whole story and to truly understand them, then as agents, we get better perspective and we understand the dynamics, and we're going to be able to guide them better because we can see the bumps in the road way ahead of time. And they also trust us. The trust is built before the bump has. So you're working every step of the way to build trust. And what's great about this is that you're being yourself. The best negotiators are authentically themselves. I can't negotiate as you, Dani, and you can't negotiate as me. We would sound silly. So just be yourself.
Is there anybody that has there ever been a situation in your career where you didn't want to work with that person? Like, even though to me, I feel like you're like a word ninja. Like to me, I'm like, oh man, this woman, she has her words, she has her emotions in check, she whatever. But has there ever been a situation where you're like, I can't work with this person. Like they're never going to let me in. They're never going to let me you're never going to earn trust, right? Like there's something that maybe they're not
Or they
aware
might be
of.
trying to manipulate you. And that's, I think, as we become, as we get more experienced as realtors, it's nicer in some ways because the pressure is released because we have a pipeline behind us, and so we're a little more comfortable in the spaces that we work. We have the ability to work with people that we want to work with. But in the very beginning, you're just happy often to just get a deal, right? So being aware in the beginning, people tell you who they are. You just have to believe them. And I think in real estate, we forget that because what we see is the possibility of a deal. And so that's another thing. That's another mindset thing. I want you to slow down and trust your gut. Your gut is telling you things. But we're not it's like a muscle that you have to start getting used to flexing again, because unfortunately in the world today, trusting your gut and trusting your intuitive side is not talked about enough, right? But we get those. Have you ever walked away from a situation or a bad deal and thought, man, I could have saw, why didn't I see that? I was thinking that this was going to happen. Why did I let myself walk down that path? Because you saw the signs ahead of time.
Right.
And that often happens in real estate, where we see the signs ahead of time, but we think, no, I can do it. I can do it. I can get them there. Or I'm going to hope that doesn't happen. And if it happens, then we'll deal with it. That's
I would say I get in trouble a lot. I just, if anything, me just being just completely honest and open here, that I am that person who's super positive. I tend to lean on the positive side. And I'm always telling my husband that I'm just like, as much as I love that he grounds me, I'm like, can you at least have a little hope? Like, can you at least be a little bit of a dreamer and stop being a realist? But there is that moment where I'm like, yeah, I really should have just took the clue, right? I should have just taken the clue that I knew that this was going to be a very tough deal. This one person was going to suck up all my energy. And all of a sudden now I'm losing other potential business or opportunities because I knew that this one situation was going to take up all my time. So yeah, it's learning people and learning how to communicate with them is, I mean, I feel like that's going to be a skill that we're going to have to consistently, that muscle we're going to have to consistently work on.
Yeah, agreed. And there's so many great agents in our industry that once we see that, and we see that in ourselves, and we just keep trying to work on building trust with each other and with our clients. It's just a better way to work. It's a less stressful way to work.
Awesome. Well, if you had just take the next 2 minutes just for any real takeaways that someone really needs to take away and how they can plug that into their everyday life and just being a little bit more aware of how they're coming into their conversations, what would you leave them with?
Starts with your mindset. So start working on yourself and your mindset and asking yourself what fears are driving you in the conversation. What is driving you to not listen at that higher level? Then understanding the client, especially if understanding the client means the deal might be lost or that the deal might not be a good deal for you. I'd rather see you slow yourself down and listen at that higher level and understand and get that perspective to save you time on a bad deal. But then also, if there's one thing that you could work on that you do, there's a book called The One Thing. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's a great book. And it talks about if we could work on the one thing that makes us, that will profit us or make us better every day, then we should focus on that one thing. Well, the one thing that we do in real estate every day is communicate with people, negotiate with people. So work on these skills to make you a better negotiator, to just move that dial. Just move that dial in real estate. It is a game changer.
That's awesome. Is there something that you're doing, though, if someone wanted to reach out to you, something that someone could be looking forward to, whether that's teaching classes or your own personal coaching? How would someone connect with you?
So you can connect with me on Instagram and Facebook. I've got Marcella Oakley for both of those. Marcella A. Oakley, I believe it is, for both of those. I also can be reached. I am actually going to start coaching again, and I've got a 10-week real estate program that's rolling out in early April for realtors who want to learn how to negotiate like a hostage negotiator with role playing, Dani. So you're welcome to join us.
I love that. Yes, no, that's great. I mean, hey, if you're signing up for it, obviously you're like, okay, I know that this is something that will help me in everything. So if that's that one thing, and to have something for anyone who loves like structure, right? Like you just saying like a 10-week course, I'm like, I love that, right? Like I know that in 10 weeks, if I plug in and I do this, that is going to help me improve my communication skills. Count me in. So thank you so much, Marcella, for just joining me today. I'm so thankful. I need to give a shout
Yes.
out to Karen Cooper, who was on a previous episode and is someone who I can tell just connects women, right? She has the ability to just see someone and go, hey, you guys should know each other. I am super thankful for
Same
Karen
as
for
well.
connecting us. Awesome. Well, I hope everyone here who listens today go follows Marcella, checks into her course as soon as she launches it, and we're going to keep cheering for you.
Spending some time with me today. Thanks, Dani.
Everybody on The Real Dani Show, thank you for chiming in. I'm going to make sure all of her information is in the show notes. If you know anyone who would benefit from hearing this conversation, please share this podcast with them. And I would love for you guys to comment below if there is anything that you want to hear from her, or keep following along for all the other future podcasts and coaching and things that she's going to be sharing, because this is an important skill I think that can play into our everyday lives and our everyday business. So thank you so much for tuning into The Real Dani Show. And until next time.